Big news was released for Star Trek Discovery, and for once the information I'm going to be discussing isn't purely rumor, it comes from StarTrek.com. Now the biggest news is casting related, with 3 new roles being cast, and the first is a confirmation that Michelle Yeoh will in fact be on the show. She will be playing Captain Georgiou, as has been rumored, and she will be the captain of the starship Shenzhou. And in further confirmation of rumors, she will be a captain, but she won't be a main character on the show. And this is of course interesting because Star Trek generally doesn't have main characters, it has wide ensembles. But they made clear in this press release that the main character will be an as yet uncast female lieutenant, which means, theoretically, that for the first time in Star Trek history, our focus might not be on the bridge. Although, of course, lieutenants can serve on the bridge, but it would be interesting to have a perspective from below decks, perhaps. Now, what could this mean for the show? We're gonna have to wait to find out. Still, despite the fact that Michelle Yeoh will not be the main character of the show, she will be a central focus of the show, and only the second female in that role in Star Trek, and the second non-white captain as well. And based on conversations with those running the show, this is part of the series' focus on diversity, which will also include many aliens serving on the vessel, and I think follows quite interestingly from one of the previous book series, that of the USS Titan, captained by William Riker, which had the most biologically and culturally diverse crew in Starfleet. But Michelle Yeoh is not the only casting news we have. We also have Doug Jones of Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and Legion, who's going to be playing Lieutenant Saru, who is a science officer. And Saru will come from an alien species that we haven't yet seen on the show, and this is always an interesting opportunity for a Star Trek series. Similar to Dr. Phlox from Enterprise, these new species can be incredibly interesting and can push the series into places it hasn't been before. And even when the alien species is one that we are familiar with, when it is on a Starfleet ship, like T'Pol or Spock or Worf, it provides an interesting alternative viewpoint into both Starfleet but also human culture, and perhaps could fill the role of a Data or a Doctor on Voyager, of someone who is trying to become a little bit more human. And finally, for the casting news, we have Anthony Rapp, who you're most likely to know from his role in Rent, where he did a fantastic job. He's going to be playing Lieutenant Stamets, who is not only another science officer, but is also an expert on fungus. Now, it's impossible to say how important that will be to the plot of the show, but it's interesting that this guy is also another science officer, and it could be that 2 science officers being cast on the same day is purely coincidence, and other sorts of roles like tactical and engineering will be filled in future days. But it could also say something about the path that the show will take in terms of its plots. It is, after all, called Discovery. Perhaps the show will be less focused on conflict and war, and more focused on scientific research and exploration and things of that sort. Now, aside from casting, some of the news is a basic rehash of what we already knew. The show is going to focus on a serialized format, much more like the latter seasons of Enterprise and DS9, rather than on largely disconnected episodes like the original series and much of Voyager and TNG. That is awesome. I mean, after all, we want those long story arcs. I mean, that was the best parts of DS9. To the extent that we saw it in Enterprise and Voyager and TNG, those tended to be the best series, when we have the multi-episode arcs where we could really drill down on characters and storylines. And also, this is precisely what Star Trek needs to succeed and compete in 2016. After all, TV has changed a lot since the last Star Trek series. We as viewers have changed a lot. It's good that the new series seems to be changing as well. Now, the most cliched way that TV has changed is that, yes, we do like to binge watch shows. We don't want to wait week to week for 42 minutes of new entertainment. Now, as far as I know, we will still have to do that in this case, but theoretically, you can wait until the show is done and watch the entirety of a run, back to back, which provides interesting opportunities. As a natural consequence of watching multiple episodes in one sitting, we are able to experience the show in a very different way and at a different level than audiences of previous shows. We can, after all, remember character relationships and names and settings and plot points in a way that is far more reliable than audiences of the older shows. And that means that those things can be more complicated, and that is a good thing. It is not simply desirable to compete, it's desirable to make the show as good as it can be. I mean, after all, think of the shows that we now have in this golden age of television. We had BSG a decade ago, we had Game of Thrones still running, and Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and all of those sorts of shows that are more complicated and are better for it. We need more of those, and fewer of the boringly structured, cliched laugh track messes. TV has grown up. We have grown up. And finally, it looks like Star Trek is growing up as well. Another piece of information that hasn't yet been confirmed in this press release, but has been talked about before, is that there's a chance that the show will change massively from season to season, a la American Horror Story. Yes, please. Give me different timelines, for instance. I don't want to stay in the pre-TOS continuity for the entirety of another series. Beyond that, give me different crews, give me different quadrants. Set one on a spaceship, the next on a space station, the next perhaps on a planet, although I'm less interested in that. Set something in the middle of a massive cosmic war. The Star Trek universe is literally a universe. It is wide, and it is rife with opportunities for storylines and entire seasons. Give us that. Give us variety, and we will give you our money, at the very least figuratively. And as a side note, in the most recent press release, I was surprised to see that Netflix will be distributing the show. But not in America. Meh, that's sad. But if you're in one of the 188 other countries that Netflix serves, it looks like you will be well served. Now, I will certainly have more to say about Star Trek Discovery as the date of its launch grows closer. It's still about 6 months away. This is a series that I am incredibly excited for and have high expectations. I have long been a Trekkie. I am right now watching Enterprise yet again after finishing Voyager for the 5th or 6th time. I have a lot of expectations, and I will have a lot to say. But in advance of that, I do have one general philosophical sort of request that I want to put out there. And it's that I hope that the show, and I suspect that it will be, based on what we found out, that it will be a little bit darker. Don't get me wrong, I want Star Trek to have its trademark hope and optimism, the idea that humanity can improve and become better and go out there and make the galaxy a better place. I want that to be there. And I get that Star Trek is always going to have some camp. I love camp as much as the next guy, but I want the series to be real, in the way that the best parts of the previous series have been, and that other non-Star Trek related series have been. I want those consequences that you can feel for characters in Game of Thrones. The idea that anything theoretically could happen in a way that generally in Star Trek has not been possible. I want the darkness of the wars from DS9. I want more the Year of Hell. I want more Best of Both Worlds. I want more fear for the future of the crew and the starship and perhaps the Federation itself. And above all else, if you are involved in the production of the show, please do not half-ass this. We've been waiting a very long time for another Star Trek series, more than a decade at this point. A lot is riding on this, and there's great opportunity if the show is done well. Star Trek means something. To the fans, and perhaps even to those who are not fans, it represents something, and so too should Star Trek Discovery. And so that's what I'm thinking at this point, but I am interested to find out what you think. Do you have anxiety about the future of the show, about the fact that Brian Fuller, the showrunner, has moved on and casting delays have delayed the launch of the show for 6 months? Are you too filled with anxiety, or do you have Star Trek-style hope? You can head down below that like button and let me know what you think. Make it so.